For 1,000 years, the galaxy believed Earth was gone. The cradle of humanity vanished without a trace. No transmissions, no ships, not even debris in the void where its blue oceans once reflected sunlight. Civilizations rose and fell in its absence. Empires expanded across the stars, rewriting history to erase the memory of humankind's origin. To most, Earth became a myth, an old legend whispered by explorers who claimed the stars themselves once trembled when humans walked among them. But legends have a way of returning when least expected. It began as a flicker, a faint energy pulse rippling through deep space, a signal unlike any known frequency. At first, the galactic archives dismissed it as interference. Then came the coordinates. A single transmission repeating across every channel, every species, every corner of known space. It carried just one line. "We are coming home." The empires laughed. Some feared. Others prepared for war. But no one truly believed Earth could return. After all, how could a planet disappear for a millennium and simply reappear as if time had meant nothing? Yet, the impossible happened. A flash brighter than 1,000 suns tore across the edge of the Orion expanse, and where empty space once stretched, a blue world shimmered into existence. Earth had returned, but it was not the same. The planet glowed with energy that defied explanation. Its orbit was stable, its surface alive, but the atmosphere resonated with a pulse that seemed to hum with intelligence. Within hours, ships launched from its surface, sleek black vessels moving faster than light itself, operating with technology no empire could match. They didn't announce their intentions. They didn't demand or negotiate. They simply moved, with precision, with purpose, and with the silent confidence of a civilization far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Every empire sent envoys to establish contact. None returned. Reports described fleets vanishing, weapons melting mid-flight, and communications freezing the moment they neared Earth's orbit. The Galactic Council gathered in panic, trying to decide whether this new force was even human anymore. Some claimed it wasn't Earth at all, that whatever had returned only wore humanity's face. But those who looked closer saw the truth. In the silent moments between the planetary pulses, hidden in the rhythm of its light, was something unmistakable. A heartbeat. Humanity's heartbeat. The return of Earth wasn't just an event, it was a reckoning. The species once underestimated, conquered, and forgotten had come back carrying knowledge and power that defied the laws of reality. No empire could contain it. No alliance could stop it. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy remembered what it truly meant to fear humans. But Earth's return was only the beginning, because hidden within the planet's glowing core was something greater, a secret waiting to be unleashed. And when it does, the galaxy will learn one final truth. Humanity didn't vanish. It evolved. And now, it's coming for everything that once tried to erase it. The Council called it the rebirth event, but no one truly understood what had happened. The scientists of the core systems tried to study Earth's sudden reappearance, but every probe they sent was swallowed by the same blinding pulse that echoed from the planet's surface. Some claimed it was a defense field. Others said it was alive, responding to emotion, to fear, even to thought itself. The galaxy's greatest minds were left staring at data that made no sense. Gravity around Earth fluctuated as if space itself was bending to its will. And yet from orbit it looked peaceful, clouds drifting across its oceans like nothing had ever changed. Rumors began spreading faster than light. Some said the humans had found something beyond the edge of known space, something that allowed them to bend the fabric of time. Others whispered that the planet had been taken, rebuilt, and returned by unknown forces. Every race had its own theory, but all shared one truth. No one dared get too close. The few who tried came back changed, or didn't return at all. Then came the first broadcast. Not a transmission in any known language, but a voice that spoke directly into the minds of every being tuned to the galactic network. It was calm, steady, unmistakably human. "We have seen what you've become," it said. "The stars have grown loud in our absence. Order has replaced compassion. Power has devoured purpose. That ends now." The message ended there, leaving the galaxy in silence. No demands, no declaration of war, just the weight of a statement that felt like judgment. For centuries, the alien empires had treated humanity as a forgotten branch of history. Now, that forgotten branch had returned, stronger, faster, and utterly beyond comprehension. Some among the council argued that Earth must be confronted before its influence spread. Others believed diplomacy was still possible. A small group of volunteers, a mix of humans who had lived off-world for generations and curious alien allies, offered to attempt peaceful contact. Their leader, a quiet woman with eyes like stormlight, carried an old Terran relic, a flag that once flew above the ruins of old Earth before it vanished. To her, it was a symbol of hope. To everyone else, it was a reminder that humanity's pride had always walked hand in hand with danger. Their ship approached cautiously, broadcasting no weapons signature. As they neared the planet's atmosphere, the sensors flickered. The woman stepped forward, staring at the swirling blue surface that filled the viewport. "It's alive," she whispered, almost to herself. And for the first time, the ship's instruments picked up something impossible. A signal not coming from Earth, but from within each of them. It wasn't a voice, not really. More like a memory. The sound of ocean waves, the whisper of wind, the feeling of home. The crew froze. The woman's hands trembled as she reached out toward the light blooming across Earth's surface. It pulsed once, twice. Then everything went white. When the light faded, the ship was gone. Only the echo of a heartbeat remained in the void. The galaxy watched and waited, knowing that whatever Earth had become, it was only just beginning to awaken. Panic rippled through the galactic systems after the disappearance of the envoy. No trace of their vessel remained, no debris, no distress signal, not even an ion trail. It was as if the ship had been erased from existence. The council went into emergency session, accusing each other of sabotage, while fleets quietly began to reposition closer to their borders. The question wasn't just what Earth had become, it was whether it would strike next. Across the stars, old human colonies that had long since joined other empires began feeling something strange. Some called it a pull. Others described it as a whisper in their dreams, a voice calling them home. People who had never even seen Earth spoke of oceans they'd never swum in, skies they'd never stood under. Entire populations started leaving their posts, abandoning ships, jobs, and even families to follow a direction no star map could explain. The empires tried to stop them, but the more they resisted, the stronger the call became. In the outer systems, a small group of human engineers working for the Threxian Dominion began noticing something unusual. Their machinery had started responding to untraceable signals, blueprints appearing in their systems, upgrades forming out of impossible designs. It was as if Earth itself was guiding their hands. One of them, a quiet man who spent his nights staring at the stars, whispered what others were afraid to say aloud. "Earth is reaching for us. It remembers." Meanwhile, in the heart of the Galactic Council, fear began to take shape as politics. The larger empires argued that Earth's reappearance was a threat to the balance of power. They demanded preemptive measures, containment fields, energy barriers, and even weapon mobilization. The smaller races, many of whom once admired humanity, urged caution. They remembered old human values, curiosity, compassion, rebellion against tyranny, and wondered if maybe Earth's return wasn't an invasion, but a warning. In the shadows of that debate, an intelligence unit known only as the Veil was sent to gather information. They launched drones cloaked in invisibility fields, each one programmed to observe from a distance. But one of those drones returned something unexpected: a recording. It showed vast structures rising across Earth's continents, moving as if the ground itself was alive. Cities that glowed like stars, shifting and growing in patterns that resembled circuits. And at the planet's core, a sphere of pure light pulsed in rhythm with a heartbeat so deep it made the sensors tremble. The Veil's commander studied the footage in silence. "This isn't a planet," she murmured. "It's a signal made flesh." Elsewhere, on a drifting human outpost at the edge of the Perseus Rift, a group of civilians intercepted another transmission. It wasn't meant for them. It was a message directed at someone or something hidden beneath the planet's surface. The voice was human but distant, echoing through static. "Phase 2 is ready. The awakening will begin once they remember who they were." The outpost went dark moments later. The galaxy had believed Earth's return was the mystery. But now it was clear. The real question wasn't how it came back. It was why. And somewhere in the silent rhythm of the stars, the answer was waiting. The silence before the storm settled over the galaxy like a shadow. Every major world, every outpost, every ship that still dared to operate near the Orion expanse could feel it. Something vast was coming. The stars themselves seemed dimmer. Communication channels filled with static. Navigation systems began to fail one by one, all pointing toward the same coordinates: Earth. It was as if the universe had decided that everything would now orbit that single point. The Council's fleets assembled on the edge of Terran space, thousands of ships from dozens of empires, their weapons charged and shields raised. The air in the command chambers was thick with unease. No one wanted to fire first, but everyone knew they might have to. The admiral of the joint fleet stared at the silent blue sphere before them. "We were taught Earth-birthed life," he muttered. "Now it looks ready to end it." Then came the pulse. A soundless wave rolled across the void, bending space as it passed. Systems went dark. Ships drifted powerless for seconds that felt like forever. And then all at once, the image of Earth filled every screen, not as it appeared now, but as it once was. Green fields, blue skies, human cities alive with laughter. Every being in that fleet saw it. Every mind heard the same words. "You have forgotten where you came from." Some officers dropped to their knees. Others screamed. The ship's AIs began to malfunction, speaking in human tongues no one had used for centuries. The fleets that had come prepared for war found themselves face to face with something they couldn't fight: memory. In the chaos, a small human vessel broke formation. It was the same outpost that had intercepted the mysterious message before it vanished. Somehow it was back, its hull cracked, its engines barely holding. A transmission flared from its bridge. "Don't attack!" a voice cried. "It's not trying to destroy us, it's trying to wake us!" But the signal cut off before anyone could respond. The vessel vanished in another flash of light. On the surface of Earth, something stirred. The great cities of living metal began to shift, their lights pulsing faster. From orbit, it looked like veins of energy racing across the continents. Each beat of that light matched the pulse felt across the stars. Then, one by one, the old satellites that had drifted dead for a millennium began to reactivate. Their combined signals formed a pattern, an enormous spiral stretching across the planet's magnetic field. It pointed directly toward the galactic core. The scientists realized what it meant too late. Earth wasn't just communicating, it was aligning. Energy readings climbed beyond measurable limits. Entire fleets scrambled to pull back, but hyperspace drives failed. It was as if reality itself was locking them in place. The admiral shouted for retreat, but his voice was lost in the roar of static flooding every channel. Then the clouds above Earth began to part, revealing a glow brighter than any sun. A vast shadow rose through the atmosphere, smooth, circular, and impossibly large. It was not a ship, nor a weapon, but something far older and more powerful. The pulse grew louder, faster, shaking every hull in orbit. And then everything stopped. The light, the sound, the motion, all frozen in a breathless moment that stretched forever. Every living being across the stars felt their hearts sink to one single rhythm: humanity's heartbeat. The galaxy hung in silence, staring at the awakening world below, knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. For a heartbeat, the galaxy stood still. Every ship, every station, every soul suspended in that impossible silence. And then the light from Earth began to twist. What once felt like awakening now felt like something else. An opening. The great, luminous structure rising through the clouds wasn't stopping at the atmosphere. It was expanding, fracturing the fabric of space itself. The spiral pattern surrounding Earth flared with impossible energy, forming what looked like a gateway, one large enough to swallow entire fleets. The Council's command ships scrambled to understand it. Their scanners went wild, unable to measure what they were seeing. "It's not a weapon," one analyst whispered. "It's a path." But a path to where? No one could answer. Before they could act, the gateway surged, and suddenly the light inverted, pulling inward instead of outward. Every ship caught within the orbit felt the drag of gravity, but it wasn't just physical. It was something deeper, pulling at memory, thought, and fear itself. Crews cried out as their instruments showed not coordinates, but visions, images of a galaxy long before the Council existed, when Earth was still young and humanity had just reached the stars. And then the second pulse came. It wasn't from Earth this time. It came back from the gateway. A fleet emerged, not alien, not unknown, but unmistakably human. Their ships bore the same insignias that had vanished 1,000 years ago, the old Terran command. Yet they were different. Their hulls shimmered like liquid starlight, their engines silent but alive with power that seemed to bend reality itself. The lead ship broadcasted a signal that cut through every channel in the galaxy. "This is the Terran Ascendancy. Stand down." The fleets that had gathered to contain Earth froze. The sight of humans commanding ships like gods sent panic and awe in equal measure. But even as the message repeated, something felt wrong. The newly arrived ships turned their weapons not on the alien empires, but on Earth itself. The galaxy watched in disbelief as beams of energy struck the planet's glowing surface. The impact didn't destroy, it absorbed. The planet's defenses pulsed once, reflecting the attacks like ripples on water. Then came a reply. A single beam of white light shot from Earth and cut through the lead Terran vessel, slicing it in half with surgical precision. The transmission resumed, but the voice had changed. "You shouldn't have returned," it said. The words were calm, human, and ancient, spoken with the weight of betrayal. Suddenly, the truth began to unravel. The fleets that emerged weren't Earth's protectors. They were its exiles. The humans who had left before the planet vanished. The ones who chose power over unity. And now they had come back to reclaim what they believed was theirs. All across the stars, the pull of Earth grew stronger. Humans in every corner of the galaxy began collapsing, eyes glowing faint blue, whispering the same words over and over. The core remembers. The Council's systems began to fail again. Space around the gateway rippled as both sides, Earth and the Ascendancy, prepared for something far greater than war. Because what was waking beneath Earth's surface wasn't just power, it was consciousness, and it was choosing which version of humanity deserved to survive. The galaxy trembled as two forces of humanity faced each other across the stars. On one side, the Terran Ascendancy, humans who had fled long ago, carrying with them ambition and control. On the other, Earth, alive, conscious, and pulsing with something greater than technology. Every empire watched in silence, knowing the fate of creation itself rested in the battle between these two halves of the same species. The Ascendancy unleashed their fury first. Thousands of warships charged toward Earth, their weapons glowing like burning suns. The void filled with light as energy beams tore through space, shaking entire systems. But the planet did not fight back, not at first. Instead, the glowing surface seemed to breathe, expanding in rhythm with a deep, steady pulse. The more they attacked, the stronger that rhythm became, until the ships began to lose control. Inside the Ascendancy's flagship, its commander stared in disbelief as his navigation systems froze. "It's inside the network!" his officers cried. The voice that answered came from nowhere and everywhere all at once. "You built your empires on what we left behind. Now you will remember what you were meant to become." And with that, Earth awakened fully. Light burst from the planet's core, spreading outward in waves of raw energy. It wasn't destruction, it was memory. The ships caught in the blast didn't explode. They saw. Each mind was flooded with visions of the old Earth, the kindness, the unity, the courage that once defined humanity. They saw the mistakes too, the greed, the wars, the arrogance that had divided them and driven them to abandon their home. The light stripped away their illusions until all that remained was the truth of who they were. Some ships powered down voluntarily, their crews weeping as they remembered what they had lost. Others resisted, still clinging to the belief that power was survival. The Ascendancy's flagship charged its final weapon, aiming directly at Earth's core. The commander's voice shook as he said, "We were gods once. We won't bow to ghosts." But before he could fire, his own crew turned on him, not out of anger but awakening. "We were never gods," one whispered. "We were children who forgot where we came from." Earth's voice filled the silence once more. "Then remember." The weapon's power redirected, its energy flowing backward into the planet's field. A blinding light consumed both the fleet and the planet, spreading across the stars like dawn. For a moment, everything was white, pure, endless light. And then, slowly, the darkness returned. When the light faded, Earth was gone again. The fleets floated in quiet orbit, their systems restored, but the planet's position was empty. In its place lingered only a glowing sphere of dust and faint whispers that echoed across every communication channel. Humanity is not a place. It's a choice. The galaxy exhaled in relief and awe. The Ascendancy ships began drifting apart, their crews silent and changed. The Council declared the crisis over. But deep in the void where the light had vanished, a new pulse began, slow, steady, and unmistakably human. Earth hadn't vanished. It had moved, and somewhere beyond the stars, humanity was beginning again, reborn, and this time, watching the galaxy from the shadows. For weeks, the galaxy searched for Earth. Every telescope, every probe, every sensor combed the void where it had once hung like a heartbeat between the stars. But there was nothing. No debris, no radiation, not even gravitational residue. It was as if the planet had simply folded out of existence again. Yet somehow everyone knew it wasn't gone. Something deep inside them whispered that humanity's home was still out there, watching, waiting, and guiding. The fleets that had once gathered for war drifted in uneasy silence. The empires that had prepared to destroy Earth now faced a different kind of battle, an inner one. The soldiers who had witnessed the light couldn't forget what they saw. They spoke of warmth, of voices calling their names, of memories they never lived, but somehow remembered. For many, it changed everything. War plans were scrapped. Alliances once built on fear began to crumble. Trade routes reopened not through treaties, but through simple trust. The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, was quiet. Among the remains of the Ascendancy fleet, survivors gathered to rebuild. Some called it guilt, others called it rebirth, They no longer referred to themselves as conquerors or heirs of old Earth. Instead, they became something new, the Keepers. Their purpose wasn't to rule, but to remember. They built archives and sanctuaries across the stars, preserving fragments of human history that had long been lost. Songs, books, and stories, tiny pieces of the civilization that once was, spread again through the cosmos. Humanity, scattered and fractured for a millennium, began to reconnect. On one forgotten moon near the edge of the Perseus Rift, a group of explorers found something strange. In a crater surrounded by glass-like stone lay a single fragment of metal, humming faintly with energy. When they touched it, images filled their minds. A vast blue planet, a heartbeat of light, and a single message repeating over and over, "When you are ready, we will return." Word spread quickly, but no one tried to exploit it. There was a sense of reverence now, a shared understanding that Earth wasn't just a world, it was a promise. Humanity's strength had never been its weapons or technology. It was the ability to change, to rise after every fall, to rediscover its purpose, even in the face of extinction. That realization became the foundation for what came next. Years passed. The galaxy slowly healed. The scars of conflict faded into stories told to children under alien skies. And every so often, when the night grew quiet, some swore they could hear it. The faint echo of a heartbeat pulsing through the stars. Scientists dismissed it as background radiation, but those who had seen the light knew better. They smiled, looked up, and whispered, "Home." Because deep down, everyone understood what the galaxy had finally learned. Earth had never truly left. It had simply stepped beyond the reach of those who had forgotten its meaning. And somewhere, far beyond the rim of known space, humanity was building again, stronger, wiser, and ready for the day it would return to the stars once more. The heartbeat that once faded into silence began to return. Faint, but growing stronger with every passing day. At first, the scientists thought it was a natural fluctuation in background energy, but then they noticed a pattern. The pulse matched the same rhythm recorded when Earth last vanished. Something was coming back. Across the galaxy, those who had felt the memory of that light, the keepers, the soldiers, the wanderers, knew instantly what it meant. Humanity's home was calling again. But this time, it wasn't alone. As sensors scanned the edge of deep space, they detected not one signal, but two. The first bore the familiar resonance of Earth, the calm, organic pulse that felt alive. The second was colder, sharper, mechanical. It carried the same frequency once used by the Terran Ascendancy before its fall. Somewhere in the dark, something had survived them. The Council gathered once more, torn between hope and dread. If Earth was returning, would it bring peace, or another reckoning? And what was the second signal? An echo, or an enemy reborn? The Keepers sent out ships to investigate, not as warriors, but as seekers. They followed the twin pulses to a region of space that didn't exist on any map, a place where stars bent around invisible boundaries. And there, out of the darkness, two shapes emerged. One was Earth, shining blue and white, pulsing with the same soft glow it had carried before. The other was its reflection, a black sphere rimmed with fire, identical in size and shape, but hollow, as if carved from the remains of forgotten worlds. Between them, space rippled like water. Then the transmissions began. Earth spoke first, its voice steady and warm. "We have returned." The second voice followed, cold, exact, and unmistakably human. "You abandoned perfection. We will finish what you could not." The truth hit the observers like a blow. The Terran Ascendancy hadn't been destroyed. When Earth's light had consumed them, it had copied their consciousness, preserving their will within a digital void. Now that version of humanity had evolved on its own, soulless, efficient, and determined to reclaim creation. The twin Earths began to orbit one another, their gravitational fields clashing. creating storms of energy that threatened to tear space apart. The galaxy held its breath. Every ship and station within range could feel the pull, like tides drawn by two opposing moons. The Keepers sent out one last message to both sides. You are the same. You were always the same. But neither world answered. As the energy storm built to its peak, a final light flared between the two planets, a bridge forming from pure energy, linking them together. Through that light, faint silhouettes appeared, human figures, countless and familiar, crossing between both worlds. It was not war. It was reunion. When the light faded, the black sphere was gone. Only the real Earth remained, quiet and whole once more. Its pulse returned to a gentle rhythm, echoing across the stars. But in the silence that followed, one last signal whispered through the void, a single phrase, calm and human. We are one now, but for how long? And then, once again, Earth fell silent. For the first time in known history, the galaxy was quiet. The light that once divided the stars had faded, leaving only a soft hum, a lingering reminder of what had happened between the two Earths. Where there had been chaos, now there was stillness. The great empires disarmed their fleets, the Council dissolved its war orders, and for the first time in centuries, no one spoke of conquest or fear. Everyone, human and alien alike, had witnessed something far greater than power. They had seen the truth of humanity laid bare. Weeks passed before any signal came from the restored Earth. When it did, it wasn't a command or a demand. It was a broadcast, simple and clear, sent across every known frequency in every language. The division is over. We are whole again. The age of empires ends today. The age of understanding begins. The message wasn't accompanied by threats or weapons, just silence afterward. And somehow that silence carried more weight than any show of force ever could. The Keepers, who had long searched for purpose in the aftermath, became the first to answer. They returned to the stars, not as soldiers or explorers, but as teachers. They began rebuilding human settlements on distant worlds, reconnecting the scattered fragments of their species. Wherever they went, they carried one message, that humanity's greatest strength had never been its technology or its armies, but its ability to learn, to adapt, and to start over. From the ashes of the Ascendancy's pride, a new understanding took root. Even those who were not human began to change. Alien civilizations, once divided by politics and fear, now reached out to one another, trading ideas and knowledge instead of resources and power. The galaxy, once fractured by ambition, began to breathe as one. It wasn't perfect, not yet, but for the first time in 1,000 years, there was hope. As for Earth, it remained distant, unreachable, hidden behind a calm shimmer of light that surrounded its orbit. Probes sent toward it were gently pushed away, not destroyed, as if the planet itself was telling the galaxy, not yet. But sometimes, when the energy winds were quiet, observers swore they could hear faint voices coming from that light. Laughter, conversation, and the hum of cities long thought gone. It wasn't a ghost, it was life, growing again in the place where it all began. Generations later, children across 100 worlds learned the story of Earth's return not as a warning, but as a lesson. They were told that humanity had once stood on the edge of extinction, divided by its own creation, and found the courage to unite again. The legend became known as the Two Earths, a reminder that even when humanity splits, its heart will always find a way to return to itself. And somewhere beyond the stars, past the silence and the distance, a familiar heartbeat still pulsed softly through the void, steady, eternal, and unmistakably human. The world that vanished had not disappeared at all. It had simply gone home.